October 1983, the United States military found itself engaged in two very different military conflicts, resulting in two very different outcomes. The first in Beirut, Lebanon. Multinational forces comprised of American, French, British, and Italian troops arrived in the region to act as peacekeeping forces between warring factions during a Lebanese civil war that began 8 years earlier. The American contingent consisted of Marine Corps, Navy, and Army personnel. 24/7 combat and outdated rules of engagement left troops exposed to a number of threats. On Sunday, October 23rd, a suicide truck bomb struck the barracks housing the 1st Battalion, 8th Marines of the 2nd Marine Division, marking the deadliest single-day death toll for the United States Marine Corps since World War II. It was an attack that no one could foresee, and untold devastation that few could ever imagine. 2 days after the tragedy in Beirut, a second conflict involving the U.S. military was underway more than 6,000 miles away on the island of Grenada in the southern Caribbean. Communist infiltration and a government coup meant the island was in chaos. Caught in the middle of the conflict were Grenadian citizens and hundreds of American students attending medical school at St. George's University. President Ronald Reagan had concerns over the construction of a Cuban and Soviet-backed airstrip with international security implications. He also feared for the lives of the American students. Acting on an appeal for help by Eastern Caribbean countries, he ordered a military intervention, evacuation, and occupation. Operation Urgent Fury launched in the early morning hours of October 25th. 1 week, 2 conflicts. Lives lost, heroes made, and countless lives forever changed. These are just some of the stories, as told by Virginia veterans, of their 1 week in October.
The Marines were sent to Beirut as part of the Peacekeeping Presence mission, and that was followed the Israeli invasion of Lebanon on June 6th of 1982. So we had the Israelis and the Christian Phalange on one side, and then you had the Syrians, the PLO, and the many Muslim militias on the other side.
It was perceived by many of the locals that the United States government had taken sides in the what was essentially a Lebanese civil war. And the government of Lebanon was in many ways, in many areas, predominantly Christian, as opposed to Islamic or some of the other religions in the area. And so with the shift in that perception of who the United States was supporting, then the players there began to perceive the United States as an opponent to them and acting against their interest. And as a consequence, it was felt by many of them that the United States had become a target.
So when we first got there at the end of May, beginning of June, we had sporadic incoming fire, everything from small arms to automatic weapons to mortars to rockets. And I would say in mid-August on, we were in combat every day and every night. The intensity of the combat most people don't know about. So we were taking incoming at all levels from mid-August until we left on the 18th of November.
That was very frustrating because all we kept doing was taking incoming fire. And there's this famous sign, I'm sure it was in the periodicals, the Can't Shoot Back Saloon. It was one of the Marine positions out beyond the runway, east of the runway.
So the rules of engagement were very simple. We were not to engage any forces unless we were engaged by them. We were to keep our magazines in our weapons, no round in the chamber, and the weapon on safe. Again, to keep in mind that we were engaged in combat operations day and night. What was interesting is the militias, the Amal, the Druze, the PSP, Progressive Socialist Party, the Syrians, the Iranians who had a military presence there, the Russians had a military presence there. So we were basically situated in a static position with a lot of people that don't like the United States firing whenever they wanted to into our position, in our defensive position.
Marines are used to fire and maneuver, not static positions. So we weren't in the defense, we weren't on the offense. We were a presence mission, and we were peacekeepers.